4:12 hours, Northern Alaska Air Defense Identification Zone, ADIZ. The Arctic skies were still and pitch black, disturbed only by thin curls of freezing wind sweeping across the icy ocean. But inside the cockpit of a U.S. Air Force B-52H Stratofortress, call sign Cobalt 6, the atmosphere was tense. The radar officer leaned forward, squinting at a new return on his AESA panel. Control, Cobalt 6. We have a distant contact. Speed rising. Altitude climbing. Joint base. Elmendorf Richardson responded at once. Copy Cobalt 6. You're not alone up there. And they weren't. Russian long-range radar stations near Anadyr had activated. S-400 tracking systems were powering up. And somewhere inside Russia's Far East, 2 fighters had just launched. Not MiG-31s, not Su-35s. This time, Russia sent its most advanced stealth fighter, the Su-57 Felon. And they're heading straight toward the B-52s. 0416 hours. Russian airspace, Chukotka region. The pair of Su-57s climbed sharply through the thin Arctic atmosphere, afterburners glowing sapphire blue. Their mission fell under a directive labeled Sever Intercept. The lead pilot, call sign Boris 16, received an encrypted message. American bombers nearing ADI's perimeter. Objective, visual ID, electronic scraping, standoff intimidation, passive sensors only. Then came the unnerving final line. Collect radar data. Do not fire unless instructed. Russia wasn't merely intercepting, it wanted intelligence. The Su-57s leveled at 43,000 feet. Their N-036 Belka radar remained silent. Only the OLS-50M infrared system scanned the sky. At that altitude, the heat signature of a B-52 was unmistakable. 4:22 hours, over the Arctic ice shelf, inside Cobalt 6, the B-52 crew caught something unusual. A faint sweep on the EW display. Low probability of intercept emissions. An unfamiliar pattern. Control, possible felon activity. We're reading a stealth band sweep. AWACS confirmed. Cobalt 6. Be advised. Su-57s are airborne. Maintain course. A heavy silence filled the bomber. Su-57 intercepts were rare. Intercepts on nuclear-capable bombers, rarer still. But near Alaska, unprecedented. This wasn't routine. It was a message. 0427 hours. Russian approach formation. The Su-57s shifted into a staggered V pattern. Their radar stayed perfectly dark. A calculated stealth technique, making them appear only at close range. Boris 16 murmured, infrared lock established. On their display, the B-52 glowed like a miniature sun. No radio, no radar, just silent stalking. Distance, under 60 miles. 429 hours. U.S. AWACS orders. Immediate reinforcement inside the E-3 Sentry. Tension spiked. Su-57s closing fast. They'll reach the bombers soon. The mission commander reacted instantly. Scramble the Raptors now. From Elmendorf's frozen runway, 2 F-22 Raptors lifted off. Call signs, Ice Wolf 1 and Ice Wolf 2. America's deadliest air superiority fighters were racing north, about to meet Russia's newest stealth jets up close for the first time. 0433 hours. First visual contact. Arctic sunlight began creeping over the horizon. Then, the radar officer whispered, movement spotted, bearing 054. 2 sharp silhouettes emerged through the haze. Angular, long-nosed, twin bay doors visible. Those are Su-57s, the co-pilot said quietly. For the first time, a U.S. bomber crew saw Russia's stealth fighter face to face. One Su-57 shifted position, exposing its underside, subtly revealing its weapons bay outline. Not opening it, just showing it, a silent threat. 0434 hours. The electronic scrape begins. B-52 radar emissions, ECM ripples, engine harmonics, altitude rhythms, cold air pitch adjustments, formation spacing patterns. Data flowed into a Russian analysis network. Inside the B-52, the EW officer noticed. Control, we're being read. They're pulling signature data. At NORAD, analysts grimaced. Russia was attempting to steal the B-52's radar and EW profile. A serious breach. 438 hours. American reinforcements arrive. A calm voice cut through. Cobalt 6, Ice Wolf 1 on station. Relief flooded the bomber. High above, 2 F-22s slipped into position, unseen, undetected. Inside the Su-57, Boris 16 suddenly stiffened, a brief flicker on his threat system. Then nothing. A ghost. A hunter. He whispered, "Felon 2, we are being tracked." The Raptors had already locked both Su-57s from beyond visual range. 0440 hours. The sky turns hostile. The Russians reacted instantly. The second Su-57 veered wide. The lead ascended sharply, trying to break the F-22's angle. The B-52 then received a secure transmission. Cobalt 6, hold course. Raptors will manage deterrence. If Su-57s illuminate targeting radar, EW engagement authorized. The EW officer tightened his grip. Russia was seconds from crossing the threshold. 4:41 hours, the first line is crossed. The Arctic air trembled. Boris 16 hesitated, then flipped a guarded switch. A burst of coded static filled the airwaves. The Su-57's N-036 Belka radar activated in high-gain mode and locked onto the B-52. Inside Cobalt 6, "We are locked. Su-57 has full targeting lock." The commander's reply was cold. They crossed it, but the Raptors were already responding. 4:42 hours. Ice Wolf 1 fires up the beast. Inside the F-22 cockpit, Ice Wolf 1 watched the Russian targeting beam spike. He advanced the throttle. "Control, Felon 1 has locked our bomber. Confirm ROE." NORAD answered, "Execute defensive dominance." Translation, "No missiles, no shots, maximum aggression without firing." "Copy," Ice Wolf 2 replied. "Let's rattle them." The Raptors plunged toward the Su-57s. 0443 hours. Raptors break stealth. The Russians expected distant specks. They got a nightmare. Ice Wolf 1 appeared only hundreds of meters from their wing, materializing out of nowhere. Boris 16 froze. "Bоже moi!" The Raptor drifted across the Su-57's nose in a high alpha maneuver, a calculated display of supremacy. The message was unmistakable. "Disengage your radar." Boris 16 immediately killed his lock, but the Raptors were far from done. 4:44 hours. The Raptors' revenge. EW, you strike. 2 toggled a classified EW mode. A focused interference burst punched into the Su-57 sensor suite. Russian displays flickered. Infrared tracking vanished. Telemetry stuttered. Boris 16 panicked. "Felon 1, systems freezing. EW interference." For 2.3 seconds, the Su-57 went blind. 2 seconds is an eternity in air combat. 0445 hours. The Felon panics. Vector 3, the second pilot, lost control emotionally. He overbanked, destabilizing his stealth profile. His radar signature spiked. Instantly, Ice Wolf 1 locked onto him, hard. Vector 3's threat receiver screamed, "We are targeted! Raptor has tone?" The F-22 then performed the ultimate humiliation. It slipped directly underneath the Su-57, the kill position. The silent message, "You're already dead." Vector 3's breathing collapsed. 0448 hours. B-52. Counterstrikes without firing. With Raptors in control, the B-52 crew initiated retaliation. Full EW suite, no holding back. The bomber unleashed a storm of broadband jamming, frequency hopping noise, ghost aircraft signatures, false altitude returns, phantom bomber formations. Russian radar centers were thrown into chaos. Multiple unknown returns, system overload. Are we under attack? The B-52 hadn't fired a weapon, but it had blinded half of eastern Russia. 4:51 hours. Moscow responds. At Russia's National Defense Center, confusion erupted. The Americans escalated to full-spectrum EW. Another officer pointed to the display. The felons lost sensor integrity. Order them to withdraw. It was a clear admission. The Su-57s were being overwhelmed. Moscow issued the command, "Felon flight, disengage and return to base." 4:52 hours. The Russians retreat. Boris 16 sighed with relief. Felon lead returning east. The Su-57s turned away. Ice Wolf 2 shadowed them, maintaining lock just long enough to deliver one final message. "We control this sky." Only once the felons neared Russian airspace did the the Raptors release them. Forest 16 muttered, "Never again. Not against the Raptor." 4:58 hours. Mission exit. Cobalt 6 continued its planned route. Control. Threats disengaged. Situation stabilized. NORAD replied, "Copy. Raptors returning. Good work." 5:10 hours. Debrief begins. At NORAD headquarters, analysts reviewed the logs. The verdict was unfiltered. F-22s outclassed Su-57s in every measurable area. Russia attempted to harvest bomber signatures. The B-52 jammed entire Russian sectors. The U.S. demonstrated total dominance without firing a shot. A senior officer closed the file. This is why the Raptor still leads the world, not to start a conflict, but to make sure we end it before it begins. Hours later, intercepted Russian communications revealed Su-57 program turmoil, internal criticism, attempts to suppress the failure. Meanwhile, the Pentagon stayed silent. It didn't need to comment. The reality was clear. If Russia brings its best to Alaska, America will unleash hell without pulling a trigger.